Some former XFL players shine bright in the CFL's 109th Grey Cup past couple weeks ago. With XFL 2023 on the horizon, this last week, the league added 464 players through their player selection process. 69 of them were returning players from the league 2 years ago. Over 50 players from the XFL 2020 are currently on NFL and CFL rosters. Last Sunday, some of the XFL standout players from 2 years ago were part of the 109th CFL Grey Cup. An exciting game that saw the Toronto Argonauts win their 18th Grey Cup by besting the back-to-back defending CFL champion Winnipeg Blue Bombers 24-23. The CFL title game featured multiple XFL 2020 players and some coaches. So on the Winnipeg side of the fence, the Blue Bombers have 5 former XFL players on their roster, and 3 of them started Sunday night on defense in the Grey Cup. Dietrich Nichols, the Houston Roughnecks, who some believe is one of the best defensive players in the league. DB Des Lawrence from the DC Defenders. Defensive tackle Casey Sales, the St. Louis Battlehawks. Defensive tackle Ricky Walker, Tampa Bay Vipers. Also, I believe he is a Hokie. And wide receiver Carlton Aguilducci of the St. Louis Battlehawks. In 2 years since starting for the Houston and the XFL and leading the league in interceptions, Dietrich Nichols has become one of Canada's best defensive backs. Nichols has been named the first team's CFL All-Star for the past 2 seasons. Defensive lineman Casey Sales has also had a strong 2-year run in Canada as a starter. Sales led the Bombers with 6 tackles and a sack in Grey Cup 109. The newly crowned CFL champion Toronto Argonauts have 6 former XFL 2020 players on their roster who are key contributors in their Grey Cup victory over the Blue Bombers. Of course, we all know defensive lineman Sean Oakman, Los Angeles Wildcats. You've seen the picture with him, just shredded and scary looking. He's had a great career in the up north in Canada. Defensive tackle Dwayne Hendricks, St. Louis Battlehawks. DB Tavares McFadden, Tampa Bay Vipers. DB Robert Priester, Vipers, offensive lineman Dejon Allen, New York Guardians, and wide receiver Cam Phillips. We remember Cam Phillips from the Houston Roughnecks days. Cam Phillips was arguably the most explosive skill player in the XFL 2 years ago, teaming up with uncrowned league MVP and current Carolina Panthers quarterback P.J. Walker. It took Phillips a while to make his mark in Canada as primarily a practice roster player in 2021. But in 2022, despite battling some injuries, he broke through as a starter with Toronto registering 515 yards receiving with 3 scores. In the Grey Cup, Cam Phillips led the Argos with 4 catches for 96 yards. Yes. Offensive tackle John Allen had been a 2-year starter for Toronto. This year, he made the East All-Star team and was nominated as the Argos' most outstanding lineman. Defensive tackle Dwayne Hendricks also made significant impact as a starter up north. The versatile edge rusher had transitioned nicely as a run-stopping DT for Toronto. The Argos also have 2 prominent coaches on their coaching staff that were assistants in the XFL in 2020. Quarterbacks coach Mike Miller, New York Guardians, and defensive backs coach William Fields, Tampa Bay Vipers. Mike Miller did a phenomenal job in helping guide league-leading passer McLeod Bethel Thompson this season, while also aiding Grey Cup hero Chad Kelly in his first year north of the border. William Fields and Joshua Bell were instrumental in coaching up one of the CFL's best secondaries in 2020. Fields' 2 players in the CFL back in 2020, Tavares McFadden and Robert Priester, were both key contributors in the Boatman's secondary this season. Each one of these players listed above have found new life in their pro careers playing in Canada, but perhaps no one is quite the comeback story of former Baylor standout Sean Oakman. The 6'9", 287-pound behemoth has been given a second chance in the XFL 2 years ago after his entire life was turned upside down in college. It took a while for Sean Oakman to get his personal and professional life in order. Once upon a time, Oakman was the next big thing, literally and figuratively, after his breakout sophomore year in Baylor in 2014, where he finished the season with 25.5 tackles for loss and 10.5 sacks. Scouts and Etzberg alike began projecting Oakman as a potential first-round pick in the NFL. But his senior year that didn't live up to heightened expectations, combined with the legal issues off the field stemming from a sexual assault charge, took Sean Oakman completely off the NFL radar. Oakman went undrafted and was unwanted. He would eventually be found not guilty of all charges, but by then Oakman was left looking for a new path on the field other than the NFL. He finally found it with the XFL, but Oakman's career almost sidetracked again when Winston Moss and the LA Wildcats released him in camp for not following instructions from coaching and being overly aggressive in practice. The rookie didn't know how to be a pro and was overzealous in trying to prove himself. Oakman's pro journey was almost over before it started. However, Winston Moss and the Wildcats would bring Oakman back a month later, and he would go on to have a successful 5-game run in LA. Fast forward today, at 30 years of age, Oakman is now a full-fledged professional football player and has become an all-star and champion with the Toronto Argonauts. He has also become a team leader and beloved figure for the Boatmen. At his age, Sean Oakman may never find his way back to the NFL, but even if he doesn't get the opportunity, Oakman has found himself and redemption after getting his second chance, and that's what football leagues not named the NFL are all about. So congratulations to all of the players, former XFL players, especially the Toronto Argonauts guys, for winning and being part of the Grey Cup and getting to continue their professional football careers. Whether they come back to the States, who knows? We're going to have to find out basically before the February starts, because who knows what their status is with the CFL, but they don't get released until mid-February from their contracts.